It was a dark and stormy night. On a small path through a forest, a young maiden could be seen walking. She was looking neither right or left as she was hurrying along. In her arms, she was carrying a newborn child. It was not her child. She had just assisted at its birth. The mother was a rich and wealthy lady. A rich and wealthy lady that was a little too fond of gossiping. So when this rich and wealthy lady's supposedly best friend and neighbor a few months earlier had given birth to twins, this lady had said, "Oh, twins, quel scandale." You know what that means, don't you? No, what does it mean? Well, they say, it's a well-known fact. If there are two children, there has to have been two, Well, do I have to spell it out? There have to have been two suitors. Well, imagine her dismay when a few months later she herself gave birth to twins. Two beautiful baby girls. She did not think she would survive this scandal, so she felt obliged to give away one of the children. She kept one of the little girls, a beautiful little baby girl with big brown eyes, and she called her Hazel. The other child she gave to her maidservant, and that is why we find her now this dark night on that little path through the forest. She was on her way to the nearby convent. In those days it happened that if there was a child you could not for some reason bring up, you would leave it with the nuns in the convent. When she arrived at the convent, it was still dark out and she could hear dogs barking in a distance. She did not want to leave the defenseless little child on the doorstep, but there was a big tree right next to the entrance, a big ash tree, and it has two branches that formed a perfect little cradle, so that is where she placed the child. And then she left. In the morning, the groundskeeper of the convent came out and saw a piece of expensive golden brocade hanging in the tree. He was very surprised and a little disappointed when he realized it contained a baby, because the rich lady had covered, after all, her child in her best bedspread before giving her away. Well, but he was a very honest man, so he brought the whole package into the nuns. And so it was that this little girl was brought up in the convent with the nuns. Since she was found in an ash tree, they called her the ash tree, which in French is la Freine. La Freine, or Freine, like she was called more commonly, grew up to become a beautiful young maiden. A little too beautiful for her own good. One day, a rich and powerful and handsome knight came to the convent, and when he saw Freine, he liked what he saw. And Freine, she was flattered by the attention. He came back again and again and again, which was very good for the convent because each time he had to bring a donation as an excuse. But he really came to see La Freine, or Freine. And soon, people started to talk. But Freine, she didn't care, because by now she was in love. All these people, they're gossiping. Should I be afraid of it? Why? This is no secret. If I have decided that he's the one, what business is this of theirs? Well, I know if I was a king's daughter, then they would be quiet. I know. But he is so strong and so handsome. So if I have chosen him, is it a mistake? No, I'm more clever than that. Let them talk. However, all this talking got to be a little too much for the night. And all those donations started to add up. So one day he asked Freine whether she wouldn't mind following him to come and live with him in his castle. Well, Freine was very young, in love. So she said yes, and off they went. Well, people were really talking about them, and the story about them spread. It must really have spread, because there is even a ballad about them on a remote island in the Baltic Sea.